Kirko, welcome to the summit.
Thank you, Denko. Yeah, Denko knows that I can talk a lot, so hopefully we can keep this going strong and keep this running smoothly. Okay. Well, thanks, Denko, for allowing me to join again here. This is my second year at the B2B conference, and I'm really excited to talk through this, and hopefully we I don't bore you guys too much. And I was supposed to go on at 5 p.m., so I was going to say have a beer. So if I start to get boring, have that beer. So let's jump in. Who am I? I'm Kirko Papajanis. I live just outside of Toronto, Canada, with my 3 kids, wife, dog. This is where I work. No, I do like Evernote, but I don't work for Evernote. Never have, in fact. So here we go. This is LinkedIn. This has my correct information. As you guys can see, I've been working at Boxpilot an awfully long time. This is what a cell phone looked like when I started at Boxpilot. Actually, I'm pretty sure I had this very one. I do miss it quite a bit. But while I reminisce about my chocolate bar phone, does anyone remember how you could source business lists back in 2001? Really, if you were selling locally, Yellow Pages was it. Then there was Hoover's, Info USA, Net Prospects, and a whole host of what were called data compilers who said they had some special sauce that they gatekept and made sure that you didn't know about. All of these resources claimed to have great data, but we all knew what to expect, and that was garbage. But it was easy. You could call someone, email someone, and in all likelihood, you'd get some sort of response. And so really, bad data was a momentary hindrance. But then something happened. Canned spam, various limitations on what you could and couldn't do, the ubiquity of voicemail in North America, particularly the option to text people. Sales got harder. So with people not opening emails and people not picking up the phone, really dependable data became more important. Jigsaw was founded on the premise that if you gave data, you would get data. What this did is sales reps could download content and information about people. All they had to do was give information as well. Seemingly, this democratized data, and everyone could have access. And most importantly, it was human sourced. Salesforce.com loved the idea so much, they threw a bunch of money at Jigsaw and rebranded to data.com. However, they slowly devolved the offering to really what we had 10 years earlier, but at least it was integrated with your CRM. Then along came Discover.org, which was founded specifically to address bad B2B data quality. And they had a team of humans verifying and updating records. It was good because, again, it was human verified. When Discover.org merged with ZoomInfo, it became the de facto standard for business data. Now, I'm not going to pick on ZoomInfo as there's so many. These are just a few, but I did want to ask the group a question, just by a show of hands. How many of you have purchased third-party data in the past? Anyone? Let's see here.
Yeah, I'm trying to help you out with the... There are several likes and there are several and 2 hands raised.
There you go. So at least a couple of people on there have purchased third-party data. In my experience, a lot of people complain about the quality of third-party data. Even though all these companies, they tout extremely high accuracy. In fact, that record on ZoomInfo that I worked at Evernote had a 77 accuracy score. It's not terribly high, but a lot higher than it should be. Reality is that third-party data business is highly commoditized and quality is sacrificed for speed of delivery, availability, and at the end of the day, cost. Now, there's one on here that's arguably not a third-party vendor, and that's LinkedIn. The biggest problem with LinkedIn is that it is 100% user maintained. This can be good and bad. Good for contact accuracy, because you have people updating their profiles. But like Instagram, the profiles are very carefully curated and they often don't represent true reality. So it can be a little bit deceptive. So we let our curiosity get the better of us and set a course to learn about these vendors. There are two companies specifically that we worked with in the past year where we did a very deep dive into their data. As you can see, even at a high level, we found two examples of data not being what it seems. In the first instance, 32% didn't match a simple NAICS code search. And in the other case, 47% were found to have some disparity, either in industry or in company size. Of course, we didn't stop there. So even though those last examples are somewhat shocking, let's dig a bit deeper. Is it really bad that it's not an exact fit? You can still market to them, right? And if it's not for them, then whatever, they'll let you know eventually. You know, I'm thinking about this further. The realization was that the more expensive a product or service was, or the more niche it was, the more important real data intelligence becomes. Low cost, broadly applicable products down and to the left on this chart, such as QuickBooks, don't necessarily need deeper account intelligence, and you can employ just batch and blast email or simple programmatic digital outreach. Whereas expensive and or niche products like ERP and industrial IoT platforms require a much deeper level of insight, because you know, just because you get a company that matches your ideal client industry and company size doesn't mean they're in market for your product. And just because a company sells widgets, just like your current best client, doesn't mean they share pain points or motivators. And that's the rub with third-party data. They don't have information on the true needs of your prospects. The data shows that the reliability of third-party data is suspect, and there's an absolute need for detailed market intelligence. You need to do some legwork and manually chase this data, and that's exactly what we did. So we conducted these two tests with a couple of very different clients to try and learn about strategic data intelligence. One was a growth-minded healthcare service provider that offered inexpensive but very niche services to clinics. The second was a fashion software as a service and equipment manufacturer that had a lifetime value, an average lifetime value of a client of over $2 million. I'm going to share what we found with the second one, as it's very enlightening. As you can see, of the initial 1,109 companies, we found only 410 that were not immediately disqualified. We focused on two key factors when determining this. Number one, are they in an applicable industry to utilize our clients' products and services? And two, do they have the scale to afford our clients' products? Now, on a positive note, we not only qualified over 75% of that 410, we also managed to find incredibly rich data around budgets, decision makers, competitive outlook, blockers, growth trajectory, and we really formed a profile of what these companies looked like. So what does the strategic data intelligence mean to companies? In the project I mentioned on the last slide, we managed to identify 12 unique key topics for the content team to focus their efforts on. And more importantly, we knew which topics applied to which companies, meaning that people would only hear about things they cared about, resulting in better engagement. Net, what this meant to our client was over $4 million in new pipeline in just 3 months. What we found in our research was mimicked in data from a study conducted by the company LeadGen. Their study found that response rates were twice as good. And because the content was more relevant to the targets, the engagement was far better and yielded more than 3 times the appointments. Furthermore, they found that not validating data cost real money. So you're wondering about where the budget comes from? Right here. They showed that SDRs wasted an average of 27% of potential selling time following bad data, resulting in more than $20,000 in losses with unproductive sales time each year. I think it's great to close the loop on the discussion on strategic data intelligence by invoking the words of ZoomInfo themselves. They said partnering with a market intelligence provider is a great way to outsource the massive amount of work it takes to build and maintain a good database. They help to analyze your database, identify and address any issues, to enable your teams to confidently take data-driven actions. And making this statement, they recognize this work should be done and that it's a lot of work. So I wanted to take the last couple of slides here, and I know I'm running out of time, Danko, to look at the future. And I left 2 key elements to the end here. When looking at the future, intent data is the first thing I want to talk about. There's certainly skepticism on what intent data is worth. After all, just because someone downloaded something or visited a site doesn't mean anything super concrete. Apple and Mozilla have ended support for third-party cookies entirely, and Google's aiming to end it by the end of 2024. So all intent data will be from first-party website owners. These could be companies like TechTarget, G2 Crowd, Gartner, Forrester's, McKinsey, etc. In my experience, the most productive use of intent data is to add data points to the profile you're building for your targets. This will allow you to further segment and target your prospects with applicable content. You may be thinking at this point, you know, how the heck am I going to look at all this data and make reasoned decisions? And that's where the last item comes in. And that's AI. No, sorry, not that one. Let's do a nicer one. You can use AI and machine learning to extrapolate data, draw inferences, identify themes, draw attention to certain trends, and suggest engagement topics. You know, really, I could do a whole presentation just on the role of generative AI in marketing. But, you know, I wanted to kind of wrap it up here. I do want to point out that there are some great tools that utilize AI and web scraping to be able to help in your data intelligence journey. So it's just a matter of employing all the right resources at the right time to build your profiles. On that note, I'm going to turn it over to the floor for questions.
Okay, well, actually, I have 2 questions for you from participants. The first one is actually, how much effort do you put in collecting and qualifying the data in order to have accurate data?
That's a very good question. So for the 2 particular projects that we did this test with, the one that I shared the data for, we made in excess of 3,500 calls and probably sent another 1,500 emails. In addition to that, we utilized some conversation intelligence AI tools to analyze the recordings and pinpoint words that came up repeatedly and trends that we could examine. And then we also had our conversation excellence team kind of dig in and listen to recordings and make notes and learn as much as possible. So it was a lot of effort to come to those conclusions. And this is why we find that on the matrix of niche and expensive, this is important on the higher end, the top right of that chart, where the value that you're chasing is representative of the work that needs to be put in. Enterprise sales is a great example. That's niche and expensive in most cases, and it tends to make sense. You know, spending $50,000 to $100,000 on a project that's going to net you 10 million is worth it all day long.
Got it. I mean, it has a sense, Kirko, that it's for enterprise sales, because Cedric, I think he was talking about the enterprise sales, and collecting 3,500 calls just to get some data sounds like awfully a lot of work if you're targeting the small businesses.
Yeah, this is not really applicable to small business unless it's niche. And the other example, the other company we worked with targeted medical clinics, but very specific on-premise surgery clinics, and that was needle in a haystack. So they were trying to break into the Florida market, and they had a list of 16,000 clinics, out of which potentially probably 100 to 200 are viable clients for them. And that is an example of smaller businesses that they were targeting, but it's such a niche and such a needle in a haystack scenario that it made sense to understand their market.
Got it. So if the target audience is the laser ultra niched, then the only way is actually to manually pre-qualify, pre-filter in order to figure out the right ones.
Exactly.
Got it. And the second question, Kirko, that we had here is that you've mentioned data points per prospect. So how many data points are recommended to have for prospect?
Well, I think that depends on what you're positioning to them. In the case that the couple of projects that we did, there were a handful of key indicators that they were the right clients. The two that I mentioned were high-level disqualifiers. So if they didn't have scale to afford the machines, they were disqualified.
Yeah.
If they were not in the right industry, they were disqualified. But other data points that we looked at is how many machines did they currently operate? What quality of product were they positioning? Were they looking at e-commerce as a solution? Were they doing large batches, wholesale orders, or were they doing smaller orders? And all of these factored in. They didn't disqualify those companies, but they factored into how you would approach marketing to them. So what ended up happening is we actually grouped the list of about 300 companies into 5 categories. The top being they have the scale, they have the need, we have the right contact, and they should go be contacted by a salesperson. Then the remaining 4 categories were people that were not, there's something that fell short, but they still required marketing, and we could tailor the messaging based on the information that we found out to improve engagement. And actually, more than 50% of the pipeline we generated came from that group, not from the top tier group, which is promising because the sales cycle is long. So it's possible that in a year, that pipeline will be in excess of 10 million, hopefully. Touch wood.
Got it. I mean, Kirko, there are no additional questions, but I think that you dig quite deeper that when it comes to sales, it's not just put on the front end, reach to as many prospects as possible, but actually you can put the majority of the effort in the database building, actually qualifying, disqualifying, intent-based checking and everything. So even when you reach out to 10 prospects, at least you know that they are really perfect fit and that you can focus your sales energy on those 10 rather than reaching to 200, and somewhere in those 200 are the 10 relevant ones.
Yeah, and you align the messaging really well, Danko, and that's key because good messaging resonates with people, and that's important in today's landscape.
Got it. Kirko, thank you very much for your insights. I mean, I always appreciate talking with you. There's always, I can pick your brain up on different topics, but the database building and the data points are something that, it's less commercialized because it's usually to put an automation and scrape. And of course, for different sales needs, you need different approach actually.
This is new for us, and we are. The results that we saw in these two deep dives were really interesting, and we're definitely going all in on this idea.
Got it. You've been a data guy for a long time.
I love it.
But thank you again, Kirko, for joining the summit.
Thank you, Danko, for having me.
It was a pleasure.